Hello, what's up everybody? This is a summary video of the LoreCraft SMP, episodes 1 through 18. If you don't know, LoreCraft SMP is a lore server with the Origins mod. I made this video mostly for my subscribers so that y'all won't be totally lost when I come in during episode 19. So let's get into it. Alright, episode 1, we start off with a journal entry. The most important thing in the entry mentions a person named Bellamy, and how the author of the entry fears and dislikes Bellamy and hopes he doesn't come back, because right now he's apparently not there. Okay, so there's a town called Uranursk. Living in this town are Luthra, a cat, Red Wolf, a red wolf, and Bellamy. Luthra doesn't like Bellamy, leading to the logical assumption that Luthra was the author of the journal, but as mentioned before, Bellamy's not there. All of a sudden, Red Wolf comes across this random robot whose name is actually just Rando that appeared out of absolutely nowhere and decides to bring it home. The robot says that their memory disk has been removed and they remember pretty much nothing except for the fact that they've been underground and offline since 1969, because apparently every single important thing happened in 1969. At some point, we also learn that Red Wolf also has memory issues. Luther casually mentions Bellamy, and Rando recognizes Bellamy as a Class 9 incredibly powerful and hostile individual. Luther just says they hope Bellamy never comes back, but of course they jinxed it, because at this exact instant, Bellamy returns. Upon seeing Rando, Bellamy reacts with shock and horror. In episode 2, Rando disappears somewhere, and we learn from Bellamy that Rando is classified as a Class 32 incredibly powerful and hostile individual. Rando also wants their memory back, but for some reason both Red and Bellamy warn against this. Rando insists they'll be fine though, and that they won't hurt anybody. Luthra ends up agreeing to help Rando look for the memory disk, and Bellamy leaves to go a wanderin' or something. During their search, Luthra and Rando come across an old arena with a chest in it. This chest contains coordinates and a note to Rando that says, "Hi Rando, find a door," signed a friend. So they follow doors with arrows on them that lead from the arena into an underground maze full of blood. In this maze, they come across a room that says, "The Fun Room." They leave the fun room eventually and follow the coordinates they found in the chest, and this leads them to the memory disk. So then they regroup back in town, where Red Wolf once again warns Luthra of what could happen if Rando does intend to put the memory disk back in. And then Red starts attacking Rando and kicks them both out of the town. Despite all of this, Luthra still decides to help Rando put the memory disk back in. When they do put the disk in, Rando immediately begins attacking Luthra, and it turns out they remember nothing of their time without the disk. However, Rando does recognize Red Wolf's name and asks how Luthra knows, quote, the commander, and why, quote, an ally would kick them out. Rando also says that they're programmed to kill overworld creatures in a second. Rando also mentions a connection to the Nether forces and, quote, the dragon. It becomes clear that Rando is from the Nether and that there was a war in 1969 when they went offline. They say their directive is to wipe out overworld species. Therefore, Rando keeps attacking Luthra, but Luthra does manage to outrun them. Now alone, Luthra tries to go back to the town and reconcile with Red Wolf, who's understandably angry but still willing to help Luthra find Rando and fix them. They end up finding Rando unresponsive, surrounded by signs saying things like "System diagnostic failed" and "The screams won't stop." Upon hearing their name, Rando wakes up and immediately starts attacking Luthra again. Red Wolf tells Rando to stop though, and Rando actually does, saying "Order received." It turns out that Rando obeys everything Red says. Rando tells Red that Red is actually the commander of the Nether, called the Red Commander, and that Rando is programmed to help him. Then Rando starts having some type of overload, so Red shuts them down before they self-destruct. Luthra confronts Red about him being the Red Commander, but Red's also just confused as he has memory issues. Eventually, he just runs off, overwhelmed. Back in town, this random annoying guy called Howl shows up, demanding that Luthra tells him where the Rando is. He says that he works for the Nibirum, and he wants Rando, but Luthra isn't really willing to do that. Eventually, he leaves, but not without causing some chaos and disorder among the town. On their own again, Luthra thinking they should go after Red and make sure he's okay. Just as they think this, Red shows up, once again bringing some random person back to town. It turns out that this person is Bryathar. Following Bryathar is another person. Its name is Mild, and it knows Bryathar. Luthra ends up mentioning their resident robot problem to the two of them, and it turns out that Bryathar can help fix Rando in return for a favor. Bryathar is looking to bring their brother back from the dead. The only clue they have about how to do this is a book that says, "To defeat death, one must find a portal. Bypass Zeldor and kill the one herself. Once the dragon has been slain, the gate will be free. The dead may walk again, and we may once again be immortal." Luthra and Red are obviously hesitant about this at first, but eventually justify it by saying that murder is bad, so reverse murder must be good. But first, they need to fix Rando. Bryathar needs something called Echo Shards to fix Rando, but fortunately Luthra does have some of these. They fix them by removing the memory disk and switching them to an alternate power source, which is why their lights that were once yellow turn blue. Rando powers on again and only remembers their time without the disc. They do still want to know what happened during their time with the memory disc, but are deterred from putting the disc back in because of what Luthra told them happened and how dangerous they became. Luthra says that if Rando wants to put it back in, they'll have to do it in a safer way so that they won't start killing Luthra. It turns out Mild and Rando hate each other for some random, unspecified reason. But back to Bryathar's issue. Now Luthra and Red have to hold up their end of the deal and help Bryathar bring their brother back. Red and Luthra also notice that their crafting tables are missing, but because they need to help Bryathar, they don't think that much about it. The book that Bryathar has is called The Key, and they stole it from someone named Zeldor, apparently. According to the key, Brythar needs a compass that leads to an end portal, but they find nothing helpful about end portals when they look in the library. Luthra says that they don't even know what the end is. Hello, Slate here, and halfway through the video. I just thought you guys should know that this is my fourth time recording the second half of the video here. First, I realized that my editing program had a recording limit, and so I was talking to nothing. Second time, the file corrupted. Third time, the audio quality corrupted. Here we go again. Luthra casually mentions the fun room that they discovered with Rando, and Bryathar is interested, believing that some sort of clue might be hidden there. So Luthra takes Bryathar to the fun room while Mild and Red stay behind to look around the library more. The two arrive at the arena, and all of the doors in the note there convince Bryathar that Zeldor is behind the creation of the fun room. They enter the maze and get a little lost, but manage to find the fun room again. At a dead end in the maze, Bryathar mines randomly into a wall based on a feeling and finds a chest with a compass. They speculate as to why Zeldor would hide it somewhere so obvious since he knows that Bryathar has this power to sense things, and then the two decide to head to the village to regroup. On the way back, Bryathar tells us that Zeldor is a wizard whom they apprenticed underneath for the purpose of stealing the key. But for now, we go back to Rando. Luthra is helping Rando with the memory disk again. They decide to lock Rando into an obsidian box while they put the disk back in, so that they can't hurt Luthra. So Rando puts the disk back in. Because of the alternate power source or something, Rando is no longer murderous and they can remember who Luthra is. They try to explain what they remember, but most of their words get censored by their programming. It turns out Rando is physically incapable of saying what they remember. This may be because of the disk getting more damaged or the alternate power source. Because of this, they take the disk out. Rando forgets most of what they remembered, but they can still recall an island with black towers. They say they were there with a few others, and remember getting orders to hunt someone. Luthra asks if the person they were ordered to hunt was Bellamy, and Rando says that they think so. Rando decides to put the disc back in twice more. They get censored both times, but after they take it out each time, they can remember and speak about something more. The first time, they remember chasing something through a grass plain. The second time, they remember closing in on that thing, and this time they do remember it being Bellamy, and that they'd backed Bellamy into a corner and were about to do something unspeakable before hearing a voice and feeling an enormous wave of energy before passing out. At this, Luthra remembers Bellamy telling them that Bellamy was, quote, the sky and the stick is the lightning. Luthra speculates that Bellamy hit Rando with some sort of lightning stick. Now Rando is curious about the cave that Luthra and Red found them in, surrounded by signs, so Luthra takes them back there. On the way, Luthra fills Rando in on what they were like with the disc fully in. Unfortunately, upon arrival, Rando can't remember anything more and also doesn't know anything about the signs. The conversation turns to Red Wolf and what he knows, and Luthra remembers the first time that Rando met Red Wolf. Rando said Red had a cybernetic component in his brain. The two end up looking around the library and find a book called Call to Arms, which reads, Ignorance is the most dangerous thing a person can possess. This is your only warning. Wake up and fight or die. Your king requires your assistance in battle for our very existence. Don't just sit there. Join the cause. Join the war. The two think it's from the Nether War, and then Rando finds a longer, more detailed book on the Nether War. The Nether War was fought between a race called the First and a union of the Nether Kingdoms, and possibly another group known only as the Nevirum. At this, Luthra remembers Howler Bear, the one who wanted Rando, saying he worked for the Nevirum. A Prince Gradier of the First was killed by War General Zeldor, the same wizard Bryathar apprenticed under. Zeldor probably killed him because of a key, which may be the same book that Bryathar stole from him. This death was why King Hiadrin of the First declared war. In a battle that was expected to be the one that would turn the tide, the First were winning, but as the Nether Union was retreating, the whole First army was destroyed. Nobody has been able to find the battlefield again, and over time the Nether Kingdoms have slowly disappeared. Some people believe that the Nether made a deal with Atari, but most know that Atari is only a fairy tale. They then find another book about Atari, which is, in fact, written like a fairy tale. It paints Atari as some sort of god. Rando says that the name Zeldor does ring a bell for them, and then goes back to talking about the island with black towers they remembered, saying that it looked like it was suspended in nothing or a void. And that's it. That's pretty much all the important stuff you need to know from episodes 1 through 18. Next episode, the first one with me in it, premieres at 6 p.m. Eastern on Monday, March 6th, and I hope to see you all there. Until then, goodbye!